Did Dan Bongino just give a warning to Trump and his team? We're going to be talking about that today and what he said that he has an eerie and creepy feeling about. Also, we're going to discuss this mystery amount of police going down the road, literally, in the middle of a fire. We'll talk a little bit about that and how it's trending online to say, what are these police doing? Also, there's a stay-in order. Basically, they're emergency evacuating a lot of people in the California area where the fires are. However, they're telling the other ones, because of the bad air, you stay inside. No one's allowed to be outside, or it could be a risk to your health. And then lastly, we're going to discuss Trump a little bit. Also, 2 things that he said he is going to do. Let's dive into these stories today. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. It is a cold, rainy, winter, stormy day here in South Mississippi. It looks like the rain has set in. It doesn't stop chores, doesn't stop the farm movement, but it does make us have to sit inside to do this video because it is flooding outside. So again, for all the people that's in this storm, especially in the ones that are more north than us, prayers for you as you go through this. Make sure you have everything you need because it looks like it is shutting a lot of places down. I see a lot of storms going through Texas and even our North Mississippi, Arkansas areas that are getting pretty blasted pretty hard. So again, prayer for those people and also the ones in the midst of the fires as well. And that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. Before we jump in, again, if you are new to our channel, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. When you share and you comment, not only are you entered into a giveaway, it does mean the world to us because it helps us spread our message across this platform. Now, let's dive into these stories. First, let's talk about Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino has, of course, a syndicated radio host. He has a huge show on Rumble and YouTube and Spotify and so forth. A lot of people listen to Dan. I listen to him some. I'm not able to catch all his podcasts, but I want you to listen to what he said. And again, remember, he was a NYPD policeman. He served in those ranks, and then he became a Secret Service, and not just Secret Service for Republicans, for Obama, for Trump, even had some Bush time, and even talked about some of the things he learned with Biden as Biden served under Obama. So I want to kind of talk about what he said. He says, Dan Bongino just released that the Trump's transition team needs to know there's something shady going on when it comes to Trump's inauguration. He said, I feel there's an obligation that I need to put it out there. I think the Secret Service, along with the FBI, are lying to this transition team. I think they know something is up, and unfortunately, there's nothing they can do until it formally happens. We believe that there is some shady things going on. Donald Trump is going to be sitting here exposed at the inauguration. And Patrick Bet-David, he came in, and again, I listen to PBD all the time, but he had a comment on this article. He said, so here's not just anybody. Dan Bongino, who was a police officer, New York police officer, then served as a U.S. Secret Service agent from 1999 to 2011. So think about what he's saying. He's saying there's a risk to Trump. You remember, I told you I think Trump should not be doing this rally on the 19th, and I believe that the inauguration should be very, very safe. But the question is he safe? I mean, look just yesterday. Now, they try to get a stay on this court that's happening today, basically, in the sentencing, and his own person that he picked that's supposed to be a conservative went against him. Amy Coney Barrett and, of course, Roberts and the rest of the liberals allowed this to happen. So what I'm saying is there is a problem in Washington, D.C. We talk about it. Even the people that we think are good-hearted, we think that are conservative, we think that are going to stand their values, they falter. And the pressure on this situation with this inauguration, how much is at stake? I mean, there's been 2 attempts on his life, and you have Dan Bongino, who is a conservative, don't get me wrong, but he's also a realist, and he is saying, look, I've been there, I know this. There's an obligation, and I think the FBI and Secret Service are missing it. And this is going to be a risk to his life for the inauguration. That's creepy. And coming from, a big talking head, not someone who typically thinks too right, not someone who thinks like, wears a tinfoil hat all the time. We're talking about somebody who is pretty conservative, but at the same time very, very middle of the road and very common sense oriented. To say those kind of words is a pretty big deal, especially with his experience behind it. So we need to pay attention to that story. Also, let's jump into more stories with Trump. He came out and said that he's wanting reciprocating laws when it comes to permitting of firearms. This is huge. Me as someone who carries, enhanced carries, have permits, have everything I need. Mississippi is a pretty easy place to get that. And then we've had training, and so we feel very comfortable in carrying. If we have that, why is it unfair for us not to go to other states and have that same, reciprocity? I think that's only right. And I think that what he's trying to do is say, look, all these states that are trying to hold back the rights of the Second Amendment, we're gonna get rid of that. Now, is that going to happen? I mean, Congress last week talked about abolishing ATF. Is all that going to happen? That all sounds good. It's all good talking points. But again, for Trump to come out and say, look, we need a reciprocity. If someone has the permits, if someone has done their due diligence in making sure that they know how to carry, they should be able to carry wherever they are. And I think that's a pretty bold move, and I think that's a good thing. Remember, all we're doing is going back to the way it used to be, where it's not overregulation. Here's the thing. The people that don't break the law are not going to break the law, and they're not the ones to worry about. The firearm carriers who are just, you don't have to worry about us. We're just worried about our families. The people that are going to break the law, they don't care about reciprocity anyway. So they're going to keep on breaking the law. So my thing is this. If there's a bad guy out there, quote unquote a bad guy out there, and there's someone trying to cause harm to an area or to people, why in the world would we not want more of the good guys armed? So I think this is a good move. I think this is huge, and there's also some states trying to push against it. Colin Noir talked about this with people trying to, again, take your rights away. And Trump came right back and said, look, we're looking for a reciprocity bill, and we're looking to be able to make sure that if you want to carry, and that's your right, you can, and you should be able to do it across state lines. I think it's a good move, and I think that brings, again, for the people who are justly carrying anyway, it's common sense. And to be honest with you, most people that are carrying could care less about the law anyway because they're protecting their family. But this is a good right, and this is something that should have been passed a long time ago. Now the thing is, can the Congress help him do this? You have like 4 or 5 talking about abolishing the ATF. You have love the opportunity to cut this regulation out. Thomas Massey's one of them. I think this would be great for Thomas Massey and Trump to spearhead together. I think it looks really good for libertarians, and I think it would be a huge move to say, look, here's a freedom that we're already willing to give you back because the government took it from you and they shouldn't have. Now, before we go into other stories, a word from today's sponsor.
Have you ever Googled yourself and literally your family members and information of yours came up? The question always comes to mind is how much of my public information is actually on the World Wide Web, on the internet where people could just access it. Not only that, think about all the spam calls you get, all the spam emails you get. I get several a day and have to block and block and block. That's where my friends at Aura, the sponsor of today's video, can help. Aura will help remove your personal information from data brokers and people searching sites to sell your information from and to identity thieves and scammers and more. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, your house number, your phone number. And not only do they check it and monitor it, they will alert you if all of a sudden they find that your information has been compromised. Also, Aura VPN. VPN protects you on the internet, and this was with military-grade protection when it comes to Aura's VPN. It blocks all scam and phishing sites from getting your information in your accounts. What about an antivirus? What about a password manager? 24/7 US-based support. I get all this in one app called Aura. I do not want to leave myself vulnerable. We talk about it all the time. We live in a digitized world. The last thing I want to do is protect my home and not protect myself online. Check out aura.com/themax today. You will not be sorry that you did. My information is mine. My social is my social. My address is mine. The last thing I want is someone else to have it. You can go to my link below, aura.com/themax, and get 2 weeks free. That will be enough for you to see how Aura is an asset to you because you're going to realize how much you're exposed online. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable. Check out Aura today. Link is in the description. Thank you so much, Aura, for sponsoring today's video.
Now let's jump into a little bit more in California with some of the news coming out. There's a story shared, and it is trending like crazy. And I don't know if you can tell in that picture, but look at that picture. That's a line of policemen driving on the highway. And this, you're in the middle of evacuation. You're in the middle of all this going on. And there is a massive line of police driving through. Well, that trended online. And there's a report that says, what in the world is going on that required this many police cars to stack up the entire 10 freeway lanes and completely light it up with emergency lights? Now there was 2 reports. One report came out that they were trying to evacuate the whole county. Now this is millions of people. That came out and said, no, we're not trying to do that. We didn't mean to send that out to the whole county. Okay, so you're not worried about that. There's another report, and this is the one I'm worried about. There's another report that there is illegal gangs that are actually, along with all these fires taking place, that they're becoming arsons and lighting them in certain areas to make evacuations happen so then they can loot, steal, and thief these homes before they're literally burned up and engulfed in flames. Now, is there any truth to that? I don't know. But it's something that we need to think about, because if you have this kind of police presence, and they for the most part are telling people to get out of their homes in the way of safety. I agree. If you're in harm's way, please get out. But also what's happening is they're catching people lighting dumpsters and lighting other fires in certain areas, and gangs are coming in, causing the arson, then turn around and causing the fact of theft and thieving and looting before this fire spreads this way. Actually, Andrew Huberman talked about this, as he's a doctorate and he has a huge podcast. He even talked about this. And now you're hearing the stories come out where there's people witnessing these happening, that they're lighting these dumpsters, they're lighting certain other fires. They're becoming even more dangerous because it allows them to have the opportunity to steal. They're saying that gangs are taking over, and they're also burning certain areas so they hopefully can take over certain areas that are burned. Now, don't know if there's truth to that, but it is kind of weird that there's a heavy police presence. There was also a report saying that it's so hard to breathe over there that they were putting an order in for people to stay in their homes. Now this is where we go back to the prepping thing, the winter storms, and now for the people that are not in harm's way, but the people now that have the smoke problems. They're saying, look, it's going to cause some issues. You're going to have some problems. You need to be inside. You don't need to be outside. You don't need to have to go to the store and so forth. So this is where we come back and say, well, what if you had to get something from the grocery? What if you had to get something from the store? What if you didn't have gas? What if you didn't have propane? What if you didn't have ways to cook? He said that the communications were down. You know who helped communications get back up? Elon Musk. Even some of the liberal news sites said we will not be able to actually go live and show the devastation, show the problems without Starlink. And then Starlink and Elon also put out that Starlink is the only way that the police are able to get this communications out to the people to make sure they're out of harm's way. But also is saying, look, the smoke is hard, the smoke is bad, you need to stay indoors. Now, is that a bad thing? No, nobody needs to be breathing in these fumes. But this comes back to the fact of why we always want to make sure we have what we need so we're not having to leave. With this winter storm coming through, I charged our batteries, got everything ready. I got our firewood up. I was doing hay. Like if you watch the video with Life of Kobe Mack today, we're getting hay up. We're doing all this stuff before the rain comes in. Because I don't want to have to leave. I don't want to have to go anywhere. I don't want to have to go anywhere in the snow or whatever, ice here. Same thing with these people. If you're in harm's way, of course, get out. Bug out. Make sure you have the things you need. But if you're not in harm's way and you're getting this smoke or you're getting these winter storms and your communication's down, do you have what you need? And do you have the supplies you need? And also, do you have the other ways of communication? I always talk about CBs and having satellite radios and having a sat phone and having crank radios. Those are things to have right now because you would be able to hear what's going on without sometimes the fact of phone systems. Because they said without Starlink, we would not even have our phone systems. And T-Mobile also helped with that. And T-Mobile even said, without Elon, we probably wouldn't have had the communication and the safety to be able to get this information to them. Isn't it funny that Gavin Newsom yesterday said that he had no cell phone service? And what was so funny, the only way he got it was through these places like Elon Musk. And I think that's pretty funny. It's that kind of an oxymoronic thing. He was trying to blow people off, saying, I don't have any cell phone service to listen and for Biden to call me. However, the only way they got it was through Elon Musk. A few more stories I want to bring up. They said that there was a La Nina heading this way for America. And what it does is it's bad news because it is saying that there will be drier air coming over the California areas. And so what they were saying is these storms with the wind, with the fact of no rain coming in, if they don't get a hold of them, it could burn more and more. They said the damage is actually over $100 billion based on some of the reports they've already received. They said there's probably $50 to $60 billion in damages. And they said that will most likely look to be about 100 to 115 in the next week. $115 billion worth of damage. You're talking about a really hit on an economy, especially in a huge town and city like Los Angeles and the areas around there, tourist destinations such as Malibu and places like that. So they're not getting any help from the weather. So we got to make sure that they have the brightest and best people on this. So I hope, in all truthfulness, I hope they'll put the politics aside and try to figure out what to do here. Sadly, I think they're going to see these fires burn even into the inauguration and into a new election. So I hope that Gavin and Trump will work out something, in all truthfulness, to help the people in California. But the La Nina, they're saying the La Nina is here, and they're saying what that's going to do is actually make for more bad news for California because of the dry air coming to that area. They said it could help, but it may knock down the winds, but there's no rain in the forecast, and they're looking at drought conditions. Never good when you hear about that, and we're not even in fire season yet. So it's a pretty big deal. California really needs to learn from what some of the mistakes that were made and hopefully figure out water better and hopefully figure out reforestation and understanding how to do that better. And here's another story I think that was huge, and people are not talking about this, and I think this is something that needs to be talked about. There's a group, Islamic terrorist group, that has been banned in several Middle Eastern countries, who's been ran out of those countries, who has caused problem after problem after problem in the Middle East. Well, they're coming out and they're specifying that they're going to cause damage to America. They want to cause the caliphate and harm to America. You know where they're having their meeting? You know where they're able to speak freely? You know where they're able to say what they want to say in complete and utter hatred, and honestly, they are warning Americans that they're coming for us. They're in Ontario, Canada. Listen to this story. I think this is just something that no one is talking about. It says there's an Islamic terrorist group that has been banned in most Arab nations that is vowing to defeat the U.S., and they hold their annual meeting in Canada each year. From Zero Hedge, it says, a designated terror group has been designated by Americans and by Arab countries have now claimed that they will plan to attack America. And it says, on January 18th, according to the Post-Millennial, the event focused on eliminating obstacles of the return, and they want the global Islamic Caliphate put in for America. Now, it's weird that this is happening on January 18th. Now, does that mean there's going to be problems before the inauguration with this group? No, but why are we openly allowing these people to dispute this hatred towards Americans and then still allow them to speak at a conference to gather all these people to make new troops for this caliphate? This is happening right across our border, and you hear nothing about it in main news. This group has been banned, and their name is, I won't butcher their name, but it's Hizb Tahrir Group. And they meet annually in Ontario, and they said this is the year that we will make Muslim cities in America. They're looking for the caliphate for America, and I think that's something we need to pay attention to. We keep our eyes focused on things like Ukraine. We keep our eyes focused on things like the fires, and we should on the fires. We keep our eyes focused on things that are happening in Washington. And all the while, this is why the border is important. This is why reciprocity with two-way rights is good, because this is the kind of risk that we face as Americans each and every day. Something to think about. Last story I want to talk about, and this is something that a lot of people have not discussed. We talk about Ukraine and Russia, but there's one area over there that's not being talked about, that America and NATO, and I say America, not the America that we want, but the global push in NATO have been toying with an election. And you can go and actually do your research, it's true. In Romania, where Romania is a Christian country and has pretty much stayed out of this whole battle with Ukraine and Russia. Now remember, they're an area just like Ukraine. They're sitting so close to Russia, a neighboring area with Eastern European countries that are dealing with what's going on in Russia. The thing is, we've had presence over there. Antony Blinken's been over there. NATO presence has been there. So the same problem that Ukraine and Russia went through with Ukraine becoming part of NATO and all that talk, we're doing the same thing in Romania. Now, the previous leader did not want that, and they're trying to keep it out. Some leaders are trying to keep it out. Some people are for it. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to basically put another NATO base in Romania. And what they're going to do is cause more friction and more problems with Russia. They're trying to, with Antony Blinken and with some of the bigger players in the global movement and NATO, they're actually trying to interfere dramatically in Romanian elections. I want you to pay attention to the story. This is kind of breaky, but a lot of people are not discussing it, and it's not been talked about a lot. But what we're doing in Romania is what we basically did in 2014 in Ukraine. I want you to pay attention. The things that we did to cause the problems that we're having now, we're actually starting to do in Romania. Focus on that story. A lot of people are not talking about it, but we're becoming the same problem maker that we were in 2014 with Obama and Biden. We're becoming the same problem maker for Romania. Not only that, that allows us to quote unquote NATO to be problem solver. More conflict and more war. Pay attention to that story. That's something that has not been spoke about a lot. But I think you're going to hear Romania a whole lot more in the next few days and weeks unless Trump can really change that policy. Remember, this is the bureaucratic class and the deep part of the Secretary of State, NATO, and if Trump really wants to play his cards right, he negotiates a better deal with NATO and he lets NATO not get into these situations, because what we're going to do is see NATO put ourselves in another Ukraine situation. Remember, we've got, what, $300 billion invested in Ukraine? Do we really want to invest that kind of money in Romania when we see our nation having problems here like in California, Texas, and North Carolina? Guys, let me know your thoughts on this video. Remember, check out my sponsor for today. We talk about safety and security. There's no better safety and security on these things than someone like Aura with a VPN and all access to make sure that you're safe. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless.